If any of you enjoy cooking, we would like to have you bring an entree for our Sunday noon lunch. And if you wish to be reimbursed, you can bring your receipts to our treasurer, or you can take a tax deduction, or you can have free meals. There's a sign-up sheet in the back, and future programs are also behind us. The sign-up sheet is usually right near the coffee machine. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Senate, looks like you have something?
As you mentioned, you don't have to cook in order to bring an entree. Safeway has great stuff, and so does Smart Final. I wanted to especially mention that Thanksgiving is coming up, and Humanist Thanksgiving will be at our house, and there's a sign-up sheet. Anybody doesn't have something better to do and would like to come to Humanist Thanksgiving, you are invited. Also, we have the video group on the 15th, Thursday, coming up in San Jose at Martin's, which is always a pleasant occasion.
Thank you. Other announcements before we move on towards 11. Well, I think what we're going to do is have, let's say, an unofficial observation that it is now 11/11/11 when the armistice for World War I was signed at the beginning of Veterans Day. And since this is Veterans Day, and on that auspicious moment will be a recognition of that important time, Peter Bishop is going to talk a little bit about that. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Arthur. So today we are, of course, unfortunately, in a time of war, which is, but it's a particularly difficult time of war, especially for all of us. However, Veterans Day is a day to think of the veterans. These are the people in the front lines, the ones taking the orders, they're not the ones deciding where on earth it is they're going to fight. And so today, I'd just like us all to have a little thanks for all those who have put their lives on the line for Americans at all times and all places. And so that is what Veterans Day is really all about. Now, they work in a portion of the government called the Defense Department, not the Offense Department, not the Department of War as it was in England. In the United States, we decided to call it the Defense Department. And so in World War II, which is probably, aside from the Civil War, those were the two major wars that, as Americans, we can be proudest of. These were, especially World War II, was in defense. And those are the humanist goals that we find best for the use of military force, is when you're actually defending yourself against all of the aggressors. Okay? In our current time of war, this is very difficult for all of us because many of us believe we shouldn't be there. That does not need to take away from Veterans Day. It just should, actually, Veterans Day is now time to renew our determination to prevent inappropriate wars and placing our troops in the it's just a terrible situation to place the troops in, to put them in a position where they're fighting a war where many of them know that it is not worth their sacrifice. And yet, they do it because the civilian authorities have told them that it is worth the sacrifice. And that is an immorality that we all need to work with. But in a democratic society, unfortunately, we cannot avoid situations where this is called upon the citizenry to stand up. And we can.
Thank you, Peter. And now I will be doing the introductions of this program providers today, because our Executive Director, Paul Gilbert, is actually in New York City at the Institute for Inquiry's conference there. Learn a few things how he can expand humanism in the area and get more familiar with what's going on in the wider free thought domain. It gives me tremendous pleasure to introduce our speakers, Peter and Catherine Bishop, because in a very real way, they were critical elements in getting the humanist community to where it is today. Not only by their conviction that humanism is truly the wave of the future, the way that the world needs to be thought of and worked on, and individuals thinking about it, but also to put their energy where it was, and where it was needed. And many of you are already aware, because I've said it several times, it was this couple who contributed a tremendous amount of money from a humanist standpoint to allow us to hire an professional executive director, which moved us to weekly meetings and allowed us then to have the kind of environment that we now have. And therefore, and I would say, I would like to claim a little niche in part of their convention today, their presentation today, because I had the pleasure of doing the wedding ceremony for their youngest son, Thomas, and during that ceremony afterwards he had things about I think it was Shia Water Project, and that sounded like such a great thing to me. I decided to make a contribution to that. I would like to believe, rightly or wrongly, that helped empower a few other people to raise the rest of the money to make that happen. And I will say no more. I will say welcome Peter and welcome Catherine, and the audience is yours. Please give them a good hand.
Well, thank you, Arthur. And unfortunately, we do not have a photograph of Arthur at that ceremony, but we do have him. Yeah, we'll get to that. All right, where we want to start off with is we're talking about Ghana. Now, where is Ghana? And so, Catherine's, we have to wait a little bit for our port projector to put it up. So you did get it so it's on the monitor? You have to make it so that it's doing the small monitor on the side. Remember the right-hand side one? Just keep hitting that page so you No. You have to hit function F8. And you just keep hitting that until it gets to the monitor. See that little thing there?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, there we go. I have to do this.
This is a learning experience.
No. Catherine had already done it. She's already done it. Okay, so where is Ghana? Ghana is in Western Africa. And for those of you who, I'm assuming that everyone can remember the shape of Africa, because I'm not showing you the whole thing. This is West Africa. Ghana is right there, all right? We have Nigeria right here. We have Guinea over here. Turns out Liberia is a particularly interesting country. The Ivory Coast is here. Benin, Togo, Burkina Faso. All right, those are all important if you're in Ghana. For us, it's hard to remember these, but we're more familiar with Nigeria. Okay, Congo is all the way down here, so it's completely out of the picture. Okay, good. And Catherine made this like this. Thank you. So that's Ghana. The coast of Ghana is called the Gold Coast. Okay? It turns out that right here, it's called the Slave Coast, because right along this entire coast, there are a string of slave castles. Because this was the center of the slave trade, because obviously slaves had to be brought to the coast before they were shipped off. Some of the incredible sites in Ghana are a British slave castle that they have turned into something similar to the Holocaust Museum. that also tells the history of the slave trade. I don't have time for that today. That's a whole other talk. However, all right, so here's Ghana. Turns out, see the S-A-H? That's the Sahara Desert, okay? Now, fortunately, for Ghana, the Sahara Desert does not quite reach all the way down to there. So we're getting transition from the Sahara Desert down through Burkina Faso, really. But Ghana is pretty well insulated from the Sahara Desert at this point in time. However, Ghana was the southern terminus of the Arabian trade across the Sahara Desert. And so religion in northern Ghana is Muslim. And in southern Ghana, it is today mainly Christian, although there are the Ashanti people. You may know the story of the spiders. Those people live down here. Okay? All right. That's Anansi the spider. Okay. Okay. So gold, cocoa, and other riches of the rainforests of Ghana, which are mostly now gone. Okay. Another thing that's interesting is that this was the 50th anniversary of the independence of Ghana. They got their independence in 1957. It turns out that how they got their independence is rather interesting from the United States point of view. And the person who helped them do this was a man by the name of Kwame Nkrumah. He was born in Ghana. He then came to the United States for his college education. He was here, being educated here in the United States, paying for this all himself, very much of a shoestring budget. While he was doing that, he was busy speaking at black churches throughout the United States, because he was very much highly skilled in politics. And after he finished up his undergraduate degrees here in the United States, he then went to England, studied under A.J. Ayer, and who was, of course, an ethicist, a philosopher, and he was getting close to his doctorate, and finally A.J. Ayer says, look, I've taught you everything I have to teach you. Go free your people. Right? At which point he gets an invitation from the major political party inside of Ghana to come and lead their political party in 1953. So he goes there in 1953, and he achieves independence from British rule in 1957. He was very much of a visionary. He saw that gaining independence for Ghana was the first step for Africa, that it was all the other countries of Ghana then needed to get their independence. Once they had gotten their independence, they should then form together to form a united Africa. This is the Pan-African movement. It has been very inspirational to the Black Power movement here in the United States. However, Kwame Nkrumah used very much the techniques of Gandhi to achieve this. So he used nonviolent achievement of power from the British in 1957. And so although the Black Panthers and the Black Power people in the United States were very inspired by him, he was forever trying to get them to be less violent and to do more in the way of following Gandhi. Okay. And Martin Luther King was there in the summer of joy 1957 when they celebrated their independence. That was right at the very beginning of the Civil Rights Movement. At that point, Kwame Nkrumah became president of Ghana, and he continued his rule until he was deposed by a military coup in 1967. His rule is now remembered as a golden age in Ghanaian history. He built the dam on the Volta River. He built the dam on the Volta River. Right here, you can actually see the Volta River on this map because of the dam. That provides Ghana with the largest body of inland water and hydroelectric power in West Africa. Yeah, so this, over here you see the Volta River. All right, well anyway, so enough about fundamental history. Yeah, actually, Catherine, you wanted to show a little bit more on, we'll get to this later, okay. So, how did our whole project get started? The way our get started is my son Tom met this incredible young lady at Hofstra University. So there he goes to Long Island, New York, and there he meets a girl from Modesto, California. Okay. And there weren't that many students from California at Hofstra University. And so they get together and they do, sophomore year abroad in Italy. And then as they're getting, a little further along in their relationship, they say, it'd be fun to spend a summer in Africa, volunteering, okay? And so that's what they did. And there was a Canadian woman who was organizing this volunteer project in Larabanga, Ghana, which is where? Here? It's in the northern region of is that where Larabanga is? Okay, so that's where Larabanga is in the northern region of Ghana. So they volunteered there, and then the following year, they said, oh yes, this is so much fun, let's go back again. Of course, by this time, they're starting to make plans to get married. So they go back in 2005, so 2004 was the first project. They go back in 2005 and do a project on malaria. And when they come back, they've now been talking enough with enough people in Ghana, they come back with this idea for the Shanga Water Project, the Shanga Village Water Project. Actually, Catherine, you can read the next slide. So the idea is that each time we get to a new, just press the arrow, that's it. Okay, there we are. All right. So they proposed the Shanga Water Project at their wedding. Okay. And that's what Martha was talking about. Right here you see the write-up proposing this project. And of course, not everyone at the wedding was a humanist. Not all of my friends are humanists, and of course, Saundra's family was not a humanist. And so that whole part of the wedding party was not humanist. So there were all these people there, but it turns out that all the people who contributed to the Shanga Water Project actually were humanists. So, although they've done their best to try to raise money outside the humanist community, it turned out that this project actually was totally funded by members of the humanist community, but without raising it here. Okay, so now we're ready for the next. So here is the result of the Shanga Water Project. Now the original idea was that they were going to dig a well. But this is the new water that they asked, because they tried to dig a well. They tried to dig a well, it was too deep. They could not dig a well, it was going to cost too much money. And of course, our money was relatively modest. It was being matched by government funds in addition. But that total amount of money was not enough to dig a well. And so they sat back and said, okay, wait a minute, we just found out it's too deep to dig a well, so we haven't spent all of our money here. So what can we do instead? And they sat and thought for a while. And then they finally decided that they'd go over and they'd dam up one of the local streams. And so they dammed up the local stream and they created this lake, which is approximately 200 times the size of the previous water supply, okay? At least, okay? If not bigger, okay? Because their previous water supply was really the corner of this room. Okay, so this is their water supply, provides them water year-round. Okay, so there we are. So now we're ready. Oh, yes. Shortly after we started the project, before we got to this point, Catherine wrote a children's story from Sunday school about the Shanga, bringing water to Shanga Village. So this is a whole book that's got all kinds, tells the story of the wedding and all kinds of stuff. There's a picture of Arthur and some of the other major contributors. And so when we published it originally, they hadn't quite finished the project. We just raised the money for it, and that was it. So now that the story is complete, and we actually have delivered water to the Shanga Village, it's time to update the story. Unfortunately, producing 1 pound per less is a lot more expensive than you think. So the cost is $20. So we need $20 from everyone who wants one, and then we'll update it and publish it as on demand. Okay. Okay. So here is the. All right, where's the Shanga Village women getting water? There we are. All right, so here is the way. Now this body of water is nearly a mile from the village. And so the way water is carried throughout Ghana is this way. And you see how big those containers are? So those containers really are, and they are really full. I mean, they're like up to an inch from the top, and they don't spill any water while they're walking. I'm watching someone, and actually inside of large cities, I was seeing women carrying water shorter distances. I was at this restaurant. This woman was walking back and forth in the restaurant, carrying this water on her head, and then spilling it into the thing right in front of her, not dropping one drop, not wasting a drop of water. But anyway, so it's kind of fascinating to see all that. They have to then walk about a mile back to the village, but this is such a huge improvement over what it was, because the old water supply was just about 200 yards from here. That it's really not much further than it was before. The idea of running water, they didn't even think about it. Right? What they have, now that they've got this water, they don't have to be, they're not sick from the water all the time. They're now starting to manufacture shea butter and export it. This is what shea butter is. I'm using it. It's a good alternative to cocoa butter. What plant does it come from again? Catherine doesn't remember, so that's good. We didn't write it down. No, that's fine. We needed to have done that for everyone. But anyway, there are plenty of places throughout West Africa that are making shea butter and starting to export it. So you're going to start seeing it as something you can buy.
What's it made with?
Isn't that
Free.
Yeah.
It's made from some kind of nut. I mean, we just haven't done our homework, so excuse me. All right. Okay, so now, so now we're up to the, okay, so now, it turns out that key people in this key people involved in here, it turns out that this woman right here, her name is Nana, and she is associated with the Tamale Women's Project, but she is also, she will be hearing more about her. She helped get us connected with the Shanga Village Water Project. This is the chief of the Shanga Village Water Project, and people, we become painfully aware that one of the difficulties of photographing Black people, and especially from Ghana, I think, where they are particularly dark, is making so you can actually see their features in a photograph, and then with all the roughness of the wall, that makes it like 3 times worse than it is if it would project it on a decent screen. Okay, so there we are. So it's very difficult to see anything about the features, but if you meet them in real life, they're people when they have features. So, okay. All right, so now we're ready. All right. So here we have Tom and Saundra, and so I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about who Tom and Saundra are. They're kind of essential to the ending point I'm going to be getting to before long. And that is my son Tom. He did go to Humanist Sunday School for his entire life. However, it was difficult for me to tell that any of it had taken, because he's very much an extrovert, and I'm like halfway between being an introvert and not quite an extrovert. He is a hardcore extrovert. I mean, he's one of the most popular kids in high school. Okay? He loved interacting with Black kids. As you all know, racial issues are a big problem in our country, and I think that Tom felt that one thing that he could do as a person was to get to know black kids on a person-to-person basis and to figure out how to have a relationship with them. And he loved doing this anyway with all kinds of different people, because that's the kind of person he is, okay? And so he developed this skill at rap. I mean, he was a basketball player, good friends with all the black basketball players on the team, but also friends with everyone else at the same time. You know, plenty of Asian friends and as well as white friends. But he developed a skill at rap, and at one point he was scouted by a rap promoter and sent to Nashville, Tennessee for a recording session. That was the highlight of his rap career, except for the fact that when he was at Hofstra University, he was the undefeated rap champion at Hofstra University, which is this, sort of considered to be a Jewish community's college in Long Island. Right? So, but it's within shouting distance of Queens, which is one of the centers of rap. And so sometimes people in Queens, aspiring rap people, would say, hey, I can win this. It's going to be real easy for me to win a competition at Hofstra University because that's just a bunch of white kids. So I can walk right in there and just beat them. Every time they did, Tom would wipe them out because he was prepared for it. He survived rap competitions here, which is not too far from Oakland, and East Palo Alto, and so he had to be friends with these kids. And so he knew how to defend himself in a rap competition. All right. So that's who Tom is. Saundra. You've already heard a little bit about her. However, you haven't heard that when we first met her, she was in ROTC. Okay. So we have this other picture of her in uniform. So she when we met her, she was very intent on a career in law. Possibly the judiciary. She's very interested in the judiciary. Since then, she has changed directions a little bit. Tom and Saundra have been involved in working at care homes for violent and retarded people with possibly autistic or Asperger's or other related problems. Right? And with her background in ROTC, she has absolutely no problem taking down a violent person, especially well. And so it's a strange. So she's a strange young woman, but very, very talented and very energetic, and very interested in helping people in all kinds of different ways. She has written a book here on voluntourism. Okay, this is an emerging kind of tourism. There have been other books about it. Her book is unique in that she says, hey, don't just go in a big group. Do it as individually as possible, and then she tells you how to stay safe while you're doing it. Because let me tell you, doing voluntourism, and staying safe at the same time, there is a little bit of a challenge there, but she helps you walk through those challenges. Okay, this is Faisal. This is Faisal. Again, unfortunately, our projection techniques are not good enough here today, so you can hardly see him at all. Okay, but he has been their trusted advisor in Ghana from their first trip, and he's played a very important role. However, all these foresight has been with regard to this organization. This is Access Northern Ghana, okay, which is an NGO, and now our people are going to post that our pictures will get a lot better, which I guess they have gotten just a little bit better. But you'll know I'll fall asleep for a second. Access Northern Ghana is a registered NGO, non-governmental organization. And this is their website. It turns out that the key, the person who actually put this website up is Faisal's brother, Hassan. Okay, and we'll see a picture of him in just a minute. This is Hassan. He's Faisal's brother. Faisal, however, plays a key role in this organization. And what this organization does is it looks for volunteering opportunities in northern Ghana, and then it helps organize people to come in and carry out these volunteer projects. And so Saundra's first project of building a guest house in Larabanga was connected with this kind of effort. Nana is also connected with this. So Nana and Faisal are feet on the ground in order to do that. Hassan's younger brother, he's now becoming to a point where he's starting to teach. Here's Faisal, you can finally see Faisal here. He's starting to teach information technology. It turns out that a major educational push throughout all of Ghana is to teach information technology to the entire populace. So they need a lot of teachers of information technology. Hassan, in that computer lab that you saw, is planning to teach teachers information technology. That's one of the projects he wants to do. So, all right, so here's Thompson. Okay, access. All right, and so, no, wait a minute. We needed the women's group next. There we go. Okay. So here is Nana. This is Nana, the song of Tom, and this is in the Shanga Village. So this is the major successful project that we all participated in with Access Northern Ghana. As I said, Nana played a key role. This is with the women's group in the Shanga Village, and Nana, of course, is a member of the women's group in the Shanga Village. So she and Sungsim and Tom are then coming in and working with the women of the Shanga Village, in order to get the water project done. All right, so let's go on. Which page is that? Okay, T. All right, so now I get to Larabanga. So we got to Larabanga. When we got to Larabanga, we started meeting up with this kind of stuff ourselves. And so we ran into this young man, Titi, who is busy running a school in Larabanga for street children. Okay. Turns out that street children in Larabanga is such a serious problem that it's written up in the tour book as being a major problem because they hassle people. Titi has this vision that Larabanga can be a major tourist attraction because it is the town just before a major wildlife park in northern Ghana, Mole National Wildlife Park. And we neglected it. And we've got slides that show you the elephants in the wildlife park that we'll be running during lunch. So he's thinking that Larabanga can be a major tourist attraction. However, the street children coming up and hassling everyone is a problem. And so he says, look, let's get them educated. And the problem with street children is a problem throughout Ghana. The entire country is trying to deal with it as best they can. And so he's doing his part. This is 2 of the huts that they built on the school ground. The chief of the village actually gave the TT some land to build the school on. These are a couple of huts. However, the main classes are, so here I am teaching a math class. This is the regular teacher right here. This is the normal class. And let's go to the next slide. Next slide, this is the English class. This is their senior faculty member teaching the English class. This is me back teaching some more of the math class. Women's groups, right. All right, now, and aside from the tribal leadership in these villages, it turns out that women's groups are a very important part of the leadership of the community. The women forming groups, this is the Sungsim women's group in Larabanga. So this is just the women's group in Larabanga, but they call it the Sungsim. women's group. Here's Saundra. There's my son Stephen. That's me. There's Tom, Catherine. This young woman over here is the translator, and here she is 2 years earlier. Afishata. She is a translator and secretary of the women's group, and a very well-spoken young woman. And of course, the others can't speak English very well. And of course, she's very well-spoken. Here is the Sungsim Women's Group again. This is the guest house that Tom and Saundra built with a whole bunch of other people. Here's Tom's name up on the building. Faisal's name is up on the building over there. They all work together to build this. Here's Afishata down there. Saundra is down there. Tom is over there. This was from 2005 when they did their malaria project. Here's the guest house, just after it was built in 2004. And here is the women's group in the Shanga Village. Again, here's Nana, Saundra, Tom. So this is just that same shot we've seen before, but from a different angle. So we see more of the women in the women's group in the Shanga Village. And Nana is, of course, part of the women's group in Tamale, which is the third largest city in Ghana. And so, just losing time in my thing. This is right. Yeah, so it turns out that malaria is a deadly killer throughout Africa. And although many Westerners think about malaria, well, geez, it's such a big problem, what do you do about it? So obviously you need malaria medicine, you need to go to the hospital. Well, it turns out going to the hospital costs $40, which doesn't sound like it's much. But for these people, it is a lot of money. Okay? And so there are many of them, but when they get malaria, they cannot go to the hospital because they absolutely cannot afford it. There's just no way they could even get anyone to lend them $40, let alone be able to withdraw it from their bank accounts, which of course no one has a bank. So Saundra came up with better approaches to this. And so she's coming, handing out mosquito nettings, telling everyone how important it is to have mosquito nettings, how important it is to not sleep on the ground. Turns out it's simply not sleeping on the ground. You sleep 6 inches or a foot off the ground, that significantly reduces your probability of getting malaria. And so there's some very simple things you can do to significantly reduce the probability. You don't eliminate it, you reduce it, and that's good enough, because after all, have we eliminated the possibility of being hit by a car in the street? No. Okay? You don't eliminate it, you reduce the probability. And so that's the level there of malaria. There were people in the town of Larabanga with television sets, but who did not have mosquito nettings and didn't have the $40 set aside, so that if they should ever get malaria, they couldn't in fact go to the hospital. So with this education, they realized that their priorities needed to be all straightened out a little bit better. So as a result of their malaria project, the leaders of the Sungsim Women's Group here arranged for this beautiful dress to be made for Saundra and her name's shirt for Tom. So we're here to thank him for the malaria project in 2005. Excuse me? Oh yes, and this shows tie-dye being done by the local women's group in Larabanga. So this is a product of the village. That was another project that they wanted to do to help raise money for the various things that the women's group wanted to do for the community. Okay, and here we are. So here we are with, here's Tom and Saundra, Faisal, and then this is the 2005 Untitled Malaria project. She was there helping with the malaria project. And the other people are members of the Larabanga Village. Okay, we need to put the lights back on now. Yeah, because that's the end of our slide. And yeah, so just do the function and just hit it once. Okay.
You did the F8, right?
Okay, function. So, that's most of what I wanted to say. That leads us to an interesting little challenge that I want to throw down to everyone. And that is that we would like, Catherine and I would like to propose that the Humanist Community initiate a section of the community that's doing good work, such as the Shanga Village Water Project, which we've already just done successfully. And Catherine and I would be willing to help with projects in Western Africa, and especially Northern Ghana. We'd be leaning heavily on Tom and Saundra, who have enormous skills. We'd be working together with the Access Northern Ghana. And of course, we've learned a lot about how do you manage projects like this from such long distances and in such uncertain places. You know, we and especially Tom and Saundra, really have a lot of knowledge about how to do that. And so, so we would be very interested in helping manage and drive projects. And then the question is the community interested in pursuing additional projects similar to the Shanga Village Water Project? So that's, now I want to throw it open for questions. I'm only 3 minutes over. Okay. Right. So, yes. Oh, and I guess I need to not be calling on you, right? Okay,
I have 2 questions. What does this village or this region produce? What is their, is it an agricultural area or? That's one of my questions. What do they produce normally? And the other question is, does it have a similar social structure to, say, Nigeria, where women actually run most of the businesses and the men sit under trees and drink palm wine? Which is what someone from Nigeria told me, that the women run most of the businesses. And so I wonder if they had a similar social structure.
Well, I did, the place where I taught the foundry for this shirt was being run by Faisal's mother, which is a little shop in town. So obviously there are some businesses that are being run by women. However, when I wanted to change my money in the black market, in that same marketplace, I went to a man in order to change my money. And of course, that was a black market operation. Similarly, the soldiers who were busy at all stock points were men. Taxi drivers were men. So taxi drivers. So I don't think it's correct to say that the men just sit around and drink palm wine in Ghana. Excuse me? Yeah, we didn't see the men being unproductive. We saw the men working hard, struggling for a good life and to make a good life. But we saw the women also able to contribute. But as I say, Northern Ghana is largely Islamic, but Islamic not, you know, in the way that inspires more of the blacks here in this country, okay? And it's less Arabian, okay? And so it's this strange black African Muslimism, which is rather different from other Muslimisms. Exactly how, I don't know, because it's starting to get way too complicated. And this was an area where I was having difficulty talking even to Faisal about it. I found I had a wonderful chat with him about humanism and whatnot. But this was an area where you need to tread very lightly, especially this is one of the guidance that I get from Tom and Saundra. You know, you never talk about religion and politics, right? And so he understands this very well because he knows how to get along so well. Okay, so
Here. Yeah, very, very inspiring. Can you talk about the sustainability of some of these projects? Perhaps the malaria prevention would be interesting, just an example.
Well, of course, the malaria prevention is actually, right when Saundra was doing that, she'd already been planning it for nearly a year, and then all of a sudden, as she's doing it, I'm hearing this is a hot subject. Rock stars are promoting this kind of stuff, and almost everybody started doing it, even though she'd already planned it, well ahead of time before it became very so popular. So this is sustainable because they're suggesting things that the people in Africa can do that are actually reasonable for them to be doing, rather than things that are just outside the question, like running water. Running water is not part of the question. The question is, do you have a large enough body of water nearby so you can actually get water that isn't going to kill you? That's the important question. And so, all of the sewers are open sewers. Okay? None of them are closed sewers. And the newly constructed sewers are open sewers. Okay? Brand new country. All right, enough.
Well, being a physician, I know a little bit about transmission of malaria, which of course is done by mosquito bites. So I didn't understand why if you sleep a little higher on the floor, you don't get so much of the bite. I suppose mosquitoes can fly to the altitude of a bed or something.
They can, but they spend much more of their time closer to the ground, and especially at night. So it does significantly reduce the chance of getting malaria by just sleeping off the ground.
Since malaria is such a problem and you're providing a larger water source where they could lay their eggs and breed, how did you deal with that?
Well, in fact, it's more running water. It's not stagnant water. So there may well be problems related to that, but it looked like a healthy lake. It didn't look like a pile of stagnant water. It didn't look like swimming pool.
What does a typical Ghana native or villager think of the United States?
Well, it's really interesting because there is some thought that the CIA was involved in the military coup that took out Kwame Nkrumah in 1967. Okay. These would be more CIA business interests, but Kwame Nkrumah was not enough of a military man, and so, with a new country like this, keeping the military in check and preventing them from doing a military coup is quite a trick, and it was a little more than he was up to. But it is believed that there was CIA influence. So there were a number of people who said, oh, by the way, your country helped kick out Kwame Nkrumah back then. I said, yes, I know, and I don't support that. And the minute I said things like that, we were not seeing the same kind of anti-American feeling and hearing from a lot of other people. On the other hand, we were coming in with a very strong anti-Iraq war standards in any case. And if that subject ever was breached, we would then say that. We did not have anti-black feelings. We were being very polite to everyone. So that was received very, very well. Catherine, can you help expand a little bit?
Our older son, Stephen, is an actor, and one morning, I guess it was an evening at dinner, we were having dinner with Atiti and Faisal at Larabanga, and Stephen did his famous George Bush imitation. Atiti was appalled. He just didn't know how to take it. And then after dinner, he said, we. I said,
So that helped a lot. That helped a lot.
How did you get to Ghana? What was your air route?
Our air route, we happened to save $1,000 off of our tickets each way, I think it was, by through Dubai. Okay? Now Dubai, it turns out, is 3 time zones to the east of Western Ghana. So we went to basically the Middle East, the eastern side of the Middle East, within shouting distance of India. And then we came back 3 time zones to Western Africa, which is in the same time zone with, it's in Greenwich Mean Time. Excuse me, Accra?
Yes.
Yeah, we landed in Accra.
Without memory.
Yeah, without our money. Catherine's mother, she knows about it.
That was an interesting comment you made, that resulted in the comment that President Bush was not appreciated in the village. One of his more favorable programs, I had understood, was AIDS relief in Africa. So has that not made an impact?
Yeah, I don't think we were aware of that in Ghana. The Larabanga Women's Project, Women's Group is very interested in AIDS education. That's why they built the guest house there to help with that. Yeah, we did not see much indication of United States government system in Ghana. They love to come.
Well, I can say that there is a huge involvement. I was just in Southern Africa. You'll see, ARVs paid for by the Bush administration all over the place. So in Southern Africa, it's quite widespread, especially through AID, USAID. My question was just kind of this piece about project management and just what your thoughts were on best practices in terms of collaborating, developing programs in Africa.
Right, well, the key element here is you need to really work with the people that are there. So coming up with an idea for a project that we've come up with is really not so good. You really want to be working with them and try to figure out what is really going to make a difference there. And so this is where working with a group like Access Northern Ghana can be really good. You have people like Nana and Faisal working together with the village leadership, whether it's tribal leadership or whether it's women's group leadership, trying to figure out what are the appropriate projects that are needed. And then we work with them and make them happen.
What are some of the future projects that you have in mind?
Well, right now we don't have a list of that. Oh, we do have a list? Well, yeah, Kath and I are currently doing a little bit to help Atini's school. We're still trying to see, we haven't been working as carefully with Access Northern Ghana on that. So I'm not sure that we're quite ready to bring that to the Humanist Community yet. We need to make sure that the project, we're doing that on, we've got our own personal connections there, and we're still learning how much we can rely on our personal connections. For purposes of the community, we take a more conservative view on this. And so right now, we don't have active projects in mind, but once interest is expressed by the community, then we'll start assembling projects. And of course, there's always a timing. There's a tricky timing issue related to this. So probably there's a little expression of interest by the community. We start funding the project. As we get closer to the project, presumably it's only to get close to the project that most of the funding will show.
I commend you for working with water in northern Ghana. My son and daughter-in-law were in the Peace Corps for 2.5 years in middle or southern part of Ghana. And their job, my son's job, was to improve the water system in that community. There was so much more I want to say, but thank you for being here.
Well, I hope, like most of our programs, this will be not be the last word on the whole thing. Any of you that want to support Peter's and Catherine's suggestion, I suggest that the best way to talk to me or to them, I think it's a great idea. The Humanist Community does in fact have a fund for helping people in the world, and I don't know if this fits within the parameters of that, but if it did, it would be a very worthwhile thing. So thank you, Peter and Catherine, and now you're going to have a ongoing slideshow during lunch hour for people who want to eat, but also maybe have some images in their mind. So thank you all for coming and join us for lunch. We ask, if you're here for the first time, we ask you to be our guest. Otherwise, we ask a $7 to $10 contribution to keep the program going on. Thank you.